folks, I'm Gary Farkash from the Oyster Bay Railroad Museum.
And I'm Ronnie Schneff, also from the Oyster Bay Railroad Museum.
And today we bring to you the Oyster Bay Railroad Museum. This is actually our 1889 Oyster Bay train station that was renovated in 1901 and reopened in 1902 for one of our favorite presidents, Teddy Roosevelt, the 26th President of the United States. Did you ever meet Teddy?
I've met a couple of people who look like him.
Yeah, the impersonators are great guys. As part of the Oyster Bay campus, it is a very nice place to visit, and it helps fund the restoration of former Long Island Railroad G5S class 10-wheeler number 35. Why don't you take it?
Yes, and the interesting part about our museum is the fact that we do have two very distinct locations, the station, as Gary just mentioned, and also our yard site, which is where Locomotive 35 is, as well as the rest of our equipment collection and the historic turntable. Locomotive 35 was one of the last 7 G5 locomotives still in service on the Long Island Railroad at the end of 1955, and by that time steam was really relegated mostly to the Oyster Bay branch. Most of the other non-electrified lines had been dieselized by that time. So to have one of the 2 surviving Long Island Railroad G5s in Oyster Bay, it is a very appropriate site for Locomotive 35 to wind up.
And for us as volunteers here, we get our hands dirty. I know it looks like I'm neat and clean here, but had you seen me 5 minutes before I changed, I was a mess, because all day long we've been working on the railroad at the display yard. I know Ronnie was working on our diesel locomotive, but I was actually working on number 35's tender most of the day, along with the locomotive frame, and we get pretty dirty.
We clean up nice.
What's been happening at the yard since last fall? We have had our fabricator, a fabulous fabricator, Fred, and myself and a few other volunteers go into the tender tank for number 35, and we started installing new subwalls in order to tie the outer walls down to the floor. One of the things that we've had issues through the years is the fact that we've been focusing on so many other pieces of equipment, we almost neglected our tender. It always was closed up, it was dark, it was filled with water. So we went in, cleaned everything out, and have started putting it back together again for the tank itself to make it ready. So when everything comes back from our contractor in Kentucky, we can just start building a tender on track 3. Besides the tank, we've also been working on the frame. We've needle scaled the frame, we've primed it, we've painted. Just today, in fact, we put an extension piece on that had to be taken off because of all the rust and the nonsense that forms underneath it, and we bolted it all in, and now next week we're going to start putting more parts of the tender back together. And one of the biggest parts of the tender is going to be our braking system.
And Gary mentioned the work going on down in Kentucky. Our contractor is Next Generation Rail Solutions, and they are presently, no pun intended, full steam ahead on the contract work portion of the locomotive restoration. So far, the number 2 drive wheels have had their tires placed back on. These days, he's busy working on converting the tender trucks to roller bearings and also working on the locomotive's brake cylinders. So there is a lot of specialized work going on down in Kentucky right now, and little by little those parts are going to be coming back in preparation for the more macro reassembly of the locomotive on track number 3.
When it all finally comes back, it's going to be an interesting few days for us. We're going to have forklifts going, cranes going, pieces of the locomotive flying through the air in order for us to put everything back together again. Ronnie, I don't know about you, but I'm probably only going to get 1 hour's sleep each night. You know, just one of those things. It's going to be fun.
Yep.
So one of the biggest questions we get is, hey, Oyster Bay Railroad Museum, you're asking for donations, but yet at the same time, you're telling us you're not restoring 35 back to operating condition. Why is that? The biggest issue is the fact that our museum is landlocked. We don't have access to a railroad, and we don't want to lose number 35 to another organization who might have access to a railroad, but not access to money to restore a steam locomotive. Ronnie?
Yes. The Oyster Bay Railroad Museum is very much committed to keeping Locomotive 35 at home on Long Island, whether that means that she's cosmetically restored, operationally restored, or somewhere in between. It should also be noted here that yes, the locomotive is being cosmetically restored in the sense that she will not be under her own power, but the running gear is being fully operationally restored to the point where the locomotive can be towed onto and off of the turntable, and in theory could be towed anywhere, even off property for display purposes or things of that nature. And nothing that we're doing here is precluding future work to restore the boiler to full operation. If conditions change in the future, we do very much remain committed to pursuing an operational restoration if we are able to do so.
Another question that's been thrown at us is, how long before everything comes back together? Well, I can't tell you that, but what I can tell you is that as the tender trucks are being worked on currently, as well as the braking system, we could see those tender trucks and brake parts come back within the next 5 or 6 months. And today we're at near the end of August. So we could invariably be building the tender in spring of next year. It's not that difficult. It's just basically trucks go down on track 3, pins go in the center of the trucks, the frame gets forklifted over and dropped on top, and then we get a crane to come in, fly the tank over the boiler, gently lower it down because the frame will be done, and then we just have to bolt the tender tank to the frame. At that point, we've effectively built a steam locomotive tender. Bonnie, tell us about Railfest.
So on September 20th of 2025, we will be having our first ever Railroad Days Festival at the Oyster Bay Railroad Museum. We're very excited about this event. This is going to be the unveiling of our newly painted and numbered dinky locomotive, and it is also going to be our grand official opening of train rides in the yard. Visitors will be able to ride a caboose onto and off of the turntable, rotate on the turntable, and then take the very short ride back to the platform. We believe it's the shortest train excursion anywhere in America, possibly the world. So we have that feather to put in our cap. The Oyster Bay Railroad Museum is a 501c3 nonprofit organization chartered by the state of New York. All donations made to the museum are tax deductible to the fullest extent of the law. Also, when you visit the museum, your admission dollars directly support everything that we do here, including the restoration of Locomotive 35. The museum is open every weekend from April till November. We are open from 12 noon till 4 p.m. We hope to see you in Oyster Bay, and thank you for your support.